over on Instagram, many of you sent me messages, questions, and DMs, and I collected them on my phone so I can answer them in this video. So if you have any questions about pride ideologies and how to navigate that in your parenting as a Muslim, please go ahead and leave your question down below. I'm going to collect them and I'm going to answer them to the best of my ability. Right now, I'm going to go ahead and answer the ones that were submitted already. First question is, my 4-year-old loves to play pretend and wear my clothes and my heels. Is that okay? Should I be concerned? If your child is under the age of 4 and they're playing pretend, your boys are wearing heels and hijabs and all of that, it doesn't mean anything more than a child's play. When it comes to pretend play or imaginative play, it is critical for the development of their cognition. What that means is children love to role play because it helps them understand and process their world. So when your little boy is trying to act like mommy, it just means that your child's trying to be an adult and he's trying to act out his autonomy and independence just like adults do. He wants to make choices just like adults. And so that's him understanding the role of the mother, the role of the adult. And what your child's trying to do is make meaning of their social environment. So there's nothing to be concerned there. Whenever your child's trying to be like mommy, you'll also notice that he'll try to be like daddy as well. This is all developmentally normal and healthy, especially when they are at the age of 4. I personally wouldn't stop a little child who's pretending to be like mom, but you can always redirect if that feels comfortable for you. You can always say, hey, let's pretend to be like daddy. Or do you remember your uncle? Remember what he was wearing during that day? Let's pretend to be him. So what we want to avoid here is correcting, because if you correct a child's imaginative play, you're actually hindering their development. So we don't want to do that. You want to join play and redirect your child that way if it feels uncomfortable. But if it doesn't, by all means, allow the child to act out the roles because it's simply a sign that their brain is processing. The next question is, kids love rainbows. I feel like I would just let them look at the rainbow and move on. Should we ignore it or bring it to their attention? It really depends on the child's age. Now, a lot of parents are concerned. I got so many questions around this. What about rainbows? Our children love rainbows, and as they should. Rainbows are a beautiful thing, and it is a creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's important that we distinguish the two. The pride flag is the pride flag and a rainbow is a rainbow. And what you can do is simply state the fact. You can explain to your child why rainbows happen and how they're a beautiful creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if they confuse the pride flag with a rainbow, that is your opportunity to tell your child that no, a pride flag is a pride flag, just like a Canadian flag is a Canadian flag. It represents something. And should your child ask you more questions about, okay, but what does pride mean? Then I actually created an entire workshop where I teach children directly about the pride community. You guessed it, the LGBTQIA plus community. I teach it in an age-appropriate way that follows the natural development of your child. It's one of my parents' favorite workshops that I've done. And in addition to that, I also have a complete parent training when it comes to how to navigate pride ideologies or Pride Month within your parenting. You're going to find that in my A to Z Islamic parenting and education program for you and your child called Forming Early Foundations. If you want more information about it, I will link it down below. And I also talk about this program in detail inside my Parenting Without Pride webinar, so you can go ahead and check it out there. The next question is, when is the age appropriate time to discuss Pride Month? This is something that you are going to have to discern as a parent. Look at your environment, look at your child's curiosity, and pay attention to their interests. If you're seeing that your child is completely oblivious to this concept and they are just in their own world, I don't think there's a reason to bring it up. Do not bring it up. I always recommend for parents to follow their child's interests and curiosity. Only discuss it if your child brings it up, or if you notice that your child is participating in Pride Month activities, or they are drawing the Pride flag, or that they're reading books that have Pride ideologies in it. That's when you would bring it up. If your child's under the age of 12, you want to stay away from lectures. You want to keep things as a matter of fact. So you would say, this flag represents the Pride community. You want to say it as neutral as possible because you are giving them information. And even when it comes to Islam, you want to say things like, this is something that displeases Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not approve of, that angers Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is something that Islam teaches us we should not do. Now, a little caveat here. You want to pay attention to the words you're using. What you want to avoid is Muslims and swap it with Islam. Why is that? In this day and age, we know there are communities of Muslims who are queers, who practice and believe in pride ideologies. So I need you to pay attention here. Try your best not to say Muslims and instead say Islam. So Islam does not allow this. Islam teaches us not to do this. Because remember, Muslims are imperfect, Islam is perfect. I want you to pay attention here because it's a slippery slope. Before you know it, your child might meet someone who identifies as Muslim, but also identifies as queer, and you never want to confuse your child down the line. Coming back to the question, that's why I don't say there's a specific age to talk about it. Only follow your child's interest, because your child could be 4 and they can be asking you about this, or they could be 13 and they can ask you about this. Just follow their natural curiosity and interest and pay attention to the environments that they're in and the activities that they're participating in, and allow that to guide you. The next question is, hesitant to go to malls with a 2 and a 4-year-old this month and be bombarded with ads? 100%. If you can avoid going to environments that displeases Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala during certain times and periods, by all means, this in and of itself is an act of worship. So for you to avoid going to malls and maybe finding other places to go for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, bi'idhnillah, will be counted for you as a reward, because it is something that you are leading for none other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And especially when it comes to Pride Month, because we know the spaces that they occupy, especially in parade, these are going to be spaces that angers Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you need to be very careful and try your best to avoid parades or areas where they are being celebrated. The next question is, don't know how much to tell them without making them extra curious about it. The way to avoid that is to keep it matter of fact. If you're only answering questions once they ask you, once they become interested, then you don't necessarily have to worry about that. And remember, curiosity is never a dangerous thing. Curiosity is healthy and children should be curious. Don't find that threatening. Instead, use that to your advantage. If you see your child's being curious about it and they're asking more questions about it, it's better that you feed their curiosity than someone else out there who's going to feed that curiosity for them. And this is something I teach to all my parents. Never, ever be threatened by your child's curiosity and be the first one to lead it. When child is curious, they are going to be determined to feel that curiosity. They're going to find ways to get those questions answered. So if it's not you, it's going to be someone else. And that's why it's better that it is you. If you don't want to keep talking about this topic, you can always assign limits. Usually I find when you're very matter of fact with children, that it feeds their curiosity enough that it will stop them from questioning any further. But if you see that your child's still interested beyond what you're comfortable with, it's time to really pay attention to what environments they're in, what they're reading, what they're watching, the friends that they're talking to, the families that they are around, the spaces that they frequent. These are things that you want to pay attention to, because you want to ask yourself, where is this curiosity coming from? A natural curiosity is normal, but if you feel like it's more than the natural, then you need to go back to the drawing board and pay attention to what's driving this curiosity more than it should. The next question is, don't know where to begin about Pride Month. Is 8 and 6 too young? There's no such thing as a child's too young to understand pride, because it's everywhere depending on where you live around the globe. Even if you're in a Muslim country, pride communities do exist. So it's important that you empower your child. Never think it's too early or it's too late. What you want to do is, if it does come up, to empower your child with the understanding that they need to be able to navigate the world with their Islamic identity intact. So is 8 and 6 young or not? It depends on your situation. It really depends on the context. It depends on your circumstance. If you know that your children have seen couples who are gay, they've seen queer individuals and so on, then it's absolutely not too young. I would say go ahead and start having these conversations in an age-appropriate way. The next question is, I don't want to share what Pride is yet, but what do I tell them when they ask about the flag? Like I said before, you're going to tell them this flag represents the Pride community. And in Islam, we don't participate in Pride beliefs. So you can just keep it at that and make them understand that this is a belief system that we don't participate in, similar to Christmas, similar to Halloween. If they ask further questions, then you can go ahead and do your own research and talk to them in an age-appropriate way. You can utilize the resources I have made available for you, where I teach kids directly about the Pride community and what it entails. The choices are available for you. But one thing I'm going to leave you with is, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Knowledge is power. So never be afraid of informing your children about something. We can actually tell our kids anything. It's just a matter of how to tell them. That's all it boils down to. Okay, I'm going to end with that question. The one thing I'm going to leave you with is, remember, the early years, you have a short window of time to instill the values that you want to instill in your child. So never be afraid to bring up things that are critical through their Islamic identity and values, go ahead and check my Parenting Without Pride webinar. Parents love to take this webinar every single year. And if you want to learn more about the programs and resources I offer, I also discuss it over there, and you'll find all the links down below. If you have any other questions, go ahead and comment it, or you can go ahead and DM it to me over at Eman's Ed Corner on Instagram, and I'll happily share it and answer it in my stories, inshallah. I hope that helped you out, and I will see you next time. Take care. Assalamu alaikum.